says in Deuteronomy, obey all my laws. And there were lots of them. There were the Ten Commandments, but there were also the Mishpatim, 618 laws about all sorts of things. Slavery, marriage, if your ox gores somebody else's ox, what do you do? All that kind of stuff. And if we believe the Bible, all these laws came from 1,200 years ago. It would be as though we had to obey the laws that were laid down by Charlemagne in a very different world. The rabbis took the command seriously. How shall we obey these laws? And if you read the Talmud, which is a great, huge collection of discussions of all the laws and how they apply today. One of the laws says, you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. What does that mean? Well, the rabbis talked about it and finally decided what it meant for them was that you shouldn't eat meat and dairy products in the same meal. That law still applies to Jews today. Okay. But then you have to ask yourself something like this. Okay, I had a roast beef sandwich for lunch. It was kosher roast beef, and bread with no milk in it, and I used oleo and not butter, and I drank tea, so I was okay. And I went out for a ride, and after about an hour I saw an ice cream stand. Well, is it allowable for me to eat a dairy product? And now after I finished my roast beef sandwiches, all that kind of stuff. And they spent a great deal of time developing all these rules and regulations for Jews to obey. And it becomes very complicated. If you're an Orthodox Jew today, the rules are enormous. But that's what Judaism is. It's all these rules and regulations which you are supposed to follow. Jesus comes into the midst of this. He says, forget it. Doesn't make any difference what you eat. You can eat pork if you want to. You can eat meat and dairy products. Nothing that you take into yourself corrupts you. It's what comes out of you which corrupts you. Oh my, that is really radical. It's not surprising the Jews eventually killed Jesus, because it undermines everything that Judaism teaches. But Jesus says, what matters is what comes out of you. Well, I watch the news, as I suppose you do, and he certainly is right. You know, every night there's a murder in Utica, and somebody's stolen money, and there's been rapes and all that stuff. Where does it come from? Well, I would suggest that it comes from human insecurity. We look out at the world and we say, how am I going to survive all this? You know? And our society tells us to be successful, what you need is money. You know? The American dream. Get money, build a nice house, and you'll be safe and secure. Well, maybe. But as many people have discovered, money is very strange. I walked into our bookstore at the college, and I was looking for something else, but my eye happened to fall on the candy counter. And there was a Snickers bar for $1.39. I remember when I bought a Snickers bar for a nickel. You know, I mean, this is what happened in Germany after World War I. People thought they had money, and all of a sudden there was this inflation, and they lost everything. You know, how many men jumped out of windows because of the Depression, and all of a sudden the money they thought made them secure was gone? One can't depend upon money or fame or power. Saddam Hussein thought that he would be safe with power. Gone. Gone. What does Jesus say? How do we find security in the midst of this world which is constantly changing, in which nothing seems secure? One word. And the word in Greek is pistis, which is usually translated as faith. Faith. But I must say, we have corrupted the word. We're likely to say, what is your faith? Well, I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Presbyterian, or I'm a Catholic. No, that's not what faith is. Faith is not a theology, a way of thinking. Faith is simple trust in that inner power, in the holy presence living in me, in you, in everybody. It's relying not upon things, stuff, the world. It's relying upon that inner power which is there. And the way to tap into it is simply to trust it. To trust the power which is within you. That's what faith is. Faith is not believing stuff. It's simply trusting in that inner power which gives us our talents and abilities, and in particular gives us a sense of compassion for the world. That's what Jesus is all about. And he acts that out in his final days when he's captured, taken before Pilate. He has that inner strength, that inner conviction, so that even going to the cross, he is safe and secure. And in that act, he shows us what faith is and how it can provide us with the meaning of life. That, I think, is the center of the whole gospel. It's time now for a moment of prayer, and I think we should all come up and